From the WKYT studios in Lexington, this is Kentucky Newsmakers with Bill Bryant.
Good morning from WKYT News. Hope you're having a nice weekend. Our guest today is Lexington Mayor Jim Gray. As usual, a lot of issues are swirling around at City Hall. In a growing city of more than 300,000 people, that's often the case. Early in the year, the mayor announced an estimated $12 million or so surplus. The city takes in more and is spending less than expected these days. We'll ask what the options for that are. Mayor Gray recently sent a letter to legislative leaders asking them to redirect money that had been set aside for Rupp Arena renovations and apply it to a UK medical research facility. The City Council wants to consider having Lexington adopt its own minimum wage hike. Some members want the city to have a local right-to-work ordinance as well. We'll ask the mayor about that. New ethics rules are under study for the City Council. Development downtown, always interesting to discuss, including status updates on Centerpoint and 21C. And the mayor's involved in a statewide effort to pass a constitutional amendment that would allow local governments to enact a local sales tax for a particular project with voter approval. Of course, Lexington is getting ready to host the Breeders' Cup later this year. Jim Gray's in his second term as mayor of Lexington, the merged urban county government, and he joins us. Mayor, thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Great to be here, Bill.
Always a lot to catch up on. And, when you read through that, you realize it.
I was listening as you said that. I said, that's a lot to talk about in 15 minutes.
We'll see what we can do. Let's start with the dollars and cents. The city has a surplus. As you say, that moves around a little bit as to exactly how much it is. But how did it happen, and what do you propose doing with it?
Well, sometimes people ask me, are you doing better or worse? Well, I can say we're doing better today. And the surplus that's been identified, of course, it's very preliminary. But it does tell you that if you were in the private sector, you'd say, well, you've made a bit of a profit. And it's always good to be in the black. What I like to say, Bill, too, is that we play to our strengths. And our strengths in Lexington are supporting the initiatives, especially the University of Kentucky. I sometimes say what's good for UK is good for the city. And that's one of the reasons that I've supported the UK medical research facility. Now, what we're going to be doing with the surplus, that's up to the administration and the council working together. But the good news is we've got something to work with.
Well, you mentioned that research facility. You recently wrote a letter to leading lawmakers and have visited Frankfurt asking them to divert money that would have been used in your project that was a high priority for you at a time for renovating Rupp Arena. But now you're saying since that is on hold, move that money over to help with this medical research facility. Why?
Well, I've always said that the Rupp project is a compelling project, and I've also said that when the time is right, when all the parties are able to agree and come to the table, when the time is right, the plan is ready. And we have a compelling plan that includes the Town Branch Park. But right now, UK is on the move. And this is so important because what is it doing? It's creating jobs. UK is the largest provider of jobs in the city, and it's the largest creator of jobs today. So President Capilouto has come on the ground, on the move, on the ground, and this research building represents a very compelling vision. Going to bring jobs, going to bring vitality, to the city, and going to bring the kind of research that puts the University of Kentucky and Kentucky then much more on the map. Already, UK has gained national attention, and this is just going to add to that inflection.
It's about a $300 million project. I think they're asking the legislature for about half of that this time, and for lawmakers to get into the budget in a non-budget year and make that move. You're supportive of that as well?
Yes, I am. Well, we really need to give a lot of credit to President Robert Stivers of the Senate. And Robert at the State Chamber dinner announced his support for this project. And that, of course, gave the project a lot of momentum. It may have even surprised President Capilouto, I've heard, but that's a good surprise. And that leadership by President Stivers and then our Speaker of the House, Stumbo, that leadership means a lot. And that bipartisan leadership means a lot.
Does your support go a long way toward mending whatever strained relations there may have been between the city and the university during all of the Rupp Arena arguing that was going on?
Well, you know, a lot more is made of that in the press than what really exists. We work with the university routinely, day to day. And what I respect is the leadership that President Capilouto has provided. Now, you're never going to get complete 100% agreement when you have, especially when you have sometimes competing projects or competing initiatives. But when you have ambitious, aspirational planning, and when you have leadership, you know, in the city and at the university working together, and sometimes, you know, that working together means sometimes there may be a little bit of tension, but you're still working together to build both the city and the university.
Any kind of updated time frame in your mind on Rupp Arena?
You know, I've said, Bill, and I've said it already right here with us today, that when the time is right, the plan is ready. I'm not going to necessarily predict when that is. What I know is that Rupp is almost a 40-year-old facility, and so it's long in the tooth, as we say in Kentucky. And I suspect that there will be a willingness, and not just a willingness, but it's a necessary looking at the facility. It's got to be competitive. That's what we know. So, and we know that we are losing that competitiveness, especially with the convention center. But perhaps too with the arena. You know, that 60, 80-inch TV screen that folks can have in their house now for under $1,000 is a competition. So the event and the entertainment attraction is really what makes these arenas something special today.
You mentioned the Town Branch project, and some envision that as really being something that could jumpstart all of downtown, because it would flow through a large part of the city. It does flow through; it's just covered up. What is the vision there?
Well, it's an exciting project, and it really would change the face of Lexington. That's what Dan Jones, who has created 21st Century Parks in Louisville, describes it. He says it's generationally transformative, and it becomes, in a sense, Lexington Central Park. Lexington is has an agrarian history, and we have this remarkable rural landscape surrounding us. But if you come into the center of the city, you know, sometimes it's even devoid of trees. Well, Lexington was conceived originally as what's described by landscape architects as a garden city. So what this does is links our rural countryside with the city, and it also links us with our past, with this remarkable history that we have going back all the way to 1775, 240 years ago, the year before the Declaration of Independence itself was signed. And where were we settled? Right around the Town Branch. And yes, you're right, today it's covered up for about 2 miles in the center of the city. It's in a culvert running underneath the ground. And this plan doesn't resurrect the entire Town Branch, but what it does is creates the park along the path of the Town Branch. And it creates episodes or chapters where water would be revealed or a feature. So that is what.
So it is the water of the branch itself, right? It's not just put there to make it look like it? Or?
It would be some of the water of the branch itself. But it's sort of like the San Antonio Riverwalk, believe it or not, is a wet weather river. So that means it's dry a lot of the time. But in San Antonio, people think of the Riverwalk as the river itself. Well, actually it is, some of it is manufactured, you know. All of that becomes part of the way in which the project is actually translated.
And there would be, I guess, rights of way all along that the public would be able to access.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That's what's remarkable about a plan like this is it actually creates development opportunity around it as well. And the right-of-way today, much of the right-of-way for the park, for the plan, is actually city-owned property or state-owned property today.
You and Mayor Greg Fisher, the mayors of the two largest cities in the state, are involved in the statewide effort for a local option sales tax. It last week passed the state house by a margin that's enough to get it on the ballot as a constitutional amendment. It goes to the Senate now. We'll see what happens. But voters would be asked first to approve that constitutional amendment, and then that would let cities have the option of trying to sell to their voters within that city a particular project and levy then a 1 cent local sales tax on. Why are you for that? What can you envision that being used for?
Well, Bill, it's not a tax, of course, at the beginning. What it is an option for local citizens to vote on whether or not they want to have projects. That's essentially what it amounts to. So it's as simple as democracy itself, giving people the right to vote. What the LIFT project, that's local investments for transformation, or local option sales tax is another way that it's described. What it does is really give cities at every size in our state, cities and counties, the opportunity for people to vote on what they need. And I think that's what's really relevant, and that's what's really important. Now, cities today, towns today are constrained. Nobody wants to raise taxes, especially for what's called the general fund, where it's really not known, not easily translated as to what those investments or what those funds are being used for. What this does is also it requires leaders in the city to listen to the people, listen to what the needs are, and then to put a plan together for those projects. And then the people can actually vote on those plans. So it's very tangible.
So there'll be some vote yes, vote no signs out there.
Oh, yeah.
In town to town,
Yeah.
but for a particular project.
And of course, there's several hurdles that it has to go through. First, 60% of the House and the Senate need to vote for it in order for it to become a constitutional amendment. And then it's voted on by the people in the state, by the voters across the whole state, to become a constitutional amendment. And then it goes to the local municipalities or counties to consider the projects, and the projects have to be then developed, and then it gets a vote by the people. So there's several hurdles to go through.
Are you among the local leaders in the state who are speaking out about the fact that with the gasoline tax going down, at least because it is based on an automatic increase or decrease in the wholesale price of gasoline, so therefore, as we all know, we've enjoyed those lower gasoline prices, but it has taken that revenue to state government down. Many city and county leaders now are fearful that that will mean considerably less money for road projects and maintenance. Are you concerned about that?
Well, I think people in Lexington are just like people across the state, and streets and roads are at the top of their list of what they expect government to provide. So yes, I support examining this, examining it carefully, and for the legislature to take action if they consider it appropriate.
I think the action that is under consideration is just creating a floor where it would go no lower.
Yeah.
What other priorities have you outlined in Frankfurt that the city wants to be sure that is done or considered while lawmakers are meeting this session?
Well, we've really focused on the local option on Lyft. There are some other initiatives, but they're on a lower order of magnitude. But we're still focused on working with the legislature. I've mentioned the support for the university's project. That really was one of the initiatives that brought the legislature, of course, back together once the special session was called.
The Lexington City Council is going to consider some changes to the city's ethics code for council members. It has not been amended since the mid-1990s. What are the primary guidelines that you think they're going to be looking at in terms of making some rules?
Well, whenever the council decides that they're going to examine something, they'll take it into a committee, and then they will and really vet the issues in the committee. So I wouldn't speculate necessarily on how the council will examine those issues, but I think whenever we can put a lens on the ethical patterns and ethics generally within government, it's important. And transparency is so important in government. I came from the private sector and into government, and I was really surprised at how much is shared with the public. I sometimes say that the city can't buy a load of coal without it passing with the city council approving it. And at first that can seem, from someone coming from the private sector, it can seem very inefficient. It takes forever, it seems, to sometimes get change. But that's the way the founders intended it. They didn't intend for any branch of the government to have much more power or authority over the other. And so sometimes from the outside that looks inefficient, but it can be very efficient.
One area of concern seems to be lobbying, reporting lobbying, or at least being more transparent with that.
Yes.
Is that a problem from your standpoint? I mean, are people constantly trying to influence you, and are professionals paid to try to influence you?
Well, I actually believe at the local level, and especially in a mature government like Lexington has, we have checks and balances, and they apply to lobbying especially. Now, having a more transparency in that dimension can be fine. I say, generally speaking, that the more transparency, the better. You know, we have to, sometimes it encumbers things, sometimes it makes it a little bit more difficult. But if you look at timing and pacing, you know, remember, we've been in business as a city for 240 years. There aren't many businesses that I know of, if any, that have been in business that long. So over the long arc of history, we're very efficient. And so when these changes are made to increase transparency, what they do is increase the confidence and the trust of the people in the government. And so it's always a healthy thing.
Lexington Mayor Jim Gray is our guest on WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. A lot more questions for him. Does he support a local right-to-work ordinance or a local minimum wage? We're back with that and more on WKYT. Welcome back now to Kentucky Newsmakers on WKYT. We're visiting with Lexington Mayor Jim Gray, and before the break we were talking about some of the priorities in Frankfort, and there was one that you wanted to add, and that has to do with a big issue in the state of heroin and trying to get some handle on that. A lot of overdoses and problems.
Well, heroin regrettably has become a drug of choice, and the cost is the cost for those who regrettably are using it is often lower than other drugs, and so this bill is really important. It's very important. It's critically important for cities. Trying to reduce the heroin usage is really essential. It cuts into every level of society. Of course, it tragically affects families, and it affects our labor market as well. Those who are trying to enter the labor market. I mean, when we have drugs that become such a scourge, then we know that we've got to work on it. And so we're fortunate the legislature is looking at it carefully.
Is that on your radar? A lot of Lexington has an incredibly low unemployment rate, as do several of the surrounding counties. However, there are companies that will tell us that they have difficulty in hiring people because of the records that they find, or the inability to find people who can pass the required screenings.
Yes, you can. There are two things, Bill, that really affect employment today. One is the skills gap. Having effective skills for the labor market. There are more jobs that are available today than we have skilled folks able to fill those jobs. And yes, drugs has become, regrettably, a real issue in employment. I come from the construction industry where we are very careful in the company, in our family business, but even then, we know that that this has become a problem. It's become a bigger problem, and tackling it, working it aggressively through the legislature is commendable for the legislature to take this on.
Some council members want to consider a hike in the local minimum wage, and apparently they've set next month to have a discussion about this. Do you oppose that, or is it at least worthy of that discussion? Well,
it's always worthy of a discussion. I support a raise in the federal minimum wage and have gone on record saying that. Now, we were talking earlier about the levels of government. What you learn in this business is that there's certain issues that are taken up at the federal level in Washington, and certain issues that have over history been taken up at the state level, and then certain issues at the municipal level. We're pretty much on the ground, blocking and tackling in a local level. And where an issue like this should be considered is at the federal level. Now, for us to debate it and consider it is always okay, and always I would say, to a point, it's good, but we need to be focused on local issues. So sometimes it can become a distraction, and that's just like right to work that issue as well.
Do you have any concerns if Lexington were to pass its own higher local minimum wage and surrounding counties did not, that might have an impact?
That is one of the issues, and that's one of the reasons that this issue appropriately is taken up at a federal level, where it applies across the country. And that way, we are able to avoid these what might be described as wage wars, between and among cities and contiguous cities and counties.
And once that came up for discussion, it immediately opened the door to talking about a local right-to-work ordinance. Many counties across the state have passed one. The Attorney General says it's a statewide issue, and he doesn't think the local bans necessarily would hold up. Where are you on that, a local right-to-work ordinance?
Well, we expect the courts to decide whether local governments can take up this issue. And until then, it's up to the council. The consideration of it might be questionable. And the only reason that I say that is that we have so many issues that are appropriately at the local level that we need to address. And when we take on issues that are arguably more of a federal or a state issue to address efficiently and responsibly, then we can get distracted on what we're really supposed to do here for our citizens. And that's the real reason. Of course, I have points of view personally on these issues because I've been in business all my life. But I also recognize.
What does a businessman say about right to work and a requirement to join a union in a unionized workplace?
Well, a lot of businesses, and here again, there are different points of view. Some businesses will say that we need this right to work legislation, and some say it doesn't really matter. You've had Toyota in Kentucky now for more than 25 years, and you'll hear, and Toyota and other employers will say, it really doesn't matter. Now, others will say that when selections are made, when site selections for industry, manufacturing especially, perhaps, are considered, that it is an issue. So, these are issues that need debate, but the question is, at what level?
And you think it's not at the local level on that issue?
No, ideally, it's not at the local level on those issues.
Lexington Mayor Jim Gray is our guest on WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. More to go. We'll talk about downtown, Center Point, and 21C. We're coming back in just a moment. Maybe the Breeders' Cup, too, before we go here. A big event later in the year. Welcome back to WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. Our final minutes now with Lexington Mayor Jim Gray. He's been talking about some of the projects throughout the city. You're interested in some park development right now, you were saying, as well, throughout town.
Well, I think we talked about Town Branch, which would be in the center of the city, but parks across our city are so important to our community. There's been an interest in a sports park, and so you know that there's a real interest among our citizens, and parks really help make a place. So looking across our city, I think, is also a master plan for our parks across the city is on our agenda.
Give us an update on some of these downtown projects. What is the latest on Center Point?
Sometimes I say, Bill, that our downtown is everybody's neighborhood, and that's why there's always conversation and interest in it. Latest on Center Point, well, I would say that there's a little bit of frustration, of course, that it's been a long project in developing, and now it's the financing for the project has been supported. Financing has been supported by the Kentucky League of Cities, and it's my understanding that the developers and the League of Cities are working on that financing package, which would be, which the League of Cities has agreed to be the conduit for the bonds.
Does it seem to you that it will be the timetable may continue to evolve on that project?
Well, these are ambitious projects. A project like this is an ambitious project, so I have seen them take time. What we know is there's a real interest in the center of our city, and that's where Center Point is located. It's right across from the new 21C, the restoration of the old Fayette First National Bank building. It's on Main Street, and it's literally the center of the city. So yes, there's an interest in it, big interest in it.
The 21C hotel and museum project, you have said is on schedule, looks to be.
It's on schedule. I think they're looking the first quarter, perhaps, of 2016. It too is an ambitious project, but it's one that takes our history and really elevates it, and that's what's so relevant about it.
How is this city progressing and getting ready for the Breeders' Cup, an opportunity to show off Lexington really to the world that pays attention to horse racing?
The Breeders' Cup picks up on the World Equestrian Games and just reaffirms that Lexington is the horse capital of the world. You know, this is, when I think about this, I think of Peter Drucker, who is a great business writer and guru, and Drucker would say, play to your strengths. Well, our signature industry, the horse industry, is so relevant, so important to us, and so much of it is about elevating the brand of the city, and that's what the Breeders' Cup does for us.
Abe Lincoln's birthday was last week. A lot of people have the opportunity, especially at night now, to see Abraham Lincoln's image in Lexington.
Yep. With the lighting of the Corba image that was painted on the back of the Kentucky Theater. I saw it myself the other night, just 2 nights ago.
And pleased with it. The city's paying for the lighting, right?
It's nominal. I think we may be trying to get Kentucky Utilities to help us on that.
A few seconds left. Are you interested in running for Congress in 2016?
You know, you and I were talking earlier about I always love a campaign, but I also love my job I've got today.
So there's no answer at this point.
I said, you know, when you're in politics, you've got to love people, and I say you've got to love your city, you've got to love your place, you've got to love people, and you've got to love problems, because we got plenty of them.
All right, Lexington Mayor Jim Gray, our guest on WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you bright and early on WKYT this morning. We start at 4:30 a.m., so we're up when you're up, and have a good week ahead.